Live, Pancreation Philosophy, episode 67. I'm your host, Pocholo Cruz. And before we start, quick shout out to the Patreon supporters who, I know by heart. Wink, wink. So, we got Danny Nguyen. We got Nuri. Thanks, Nuri. We got Ken Domo, a.k.a. Franco. Kenji Campbell. Austin Rice. Haven't seen you at the gym, probably because of your wife. Jay White, even though he's homeless. Big money. Kong. Mikhail Jackson, who also aided in the Pancreation Philosophy photo shoot. Thanks, Mikhail. And then, shout out to Joel Ridzak, giving us these microphones and mixer. Shout out to unpaid intern, Young Ender, there behind the camera. Single ladies. But yeah, enough of those shout outs. So, what we're here for is our guest today, who is
Ryan Ishmael.
Ryan, welcome to the show. Great to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So, all right, we talk about martial arts journeys here. So, Ryan, how did you get started in martial arts?
Where do you want to start at, though?
Let's go start in the beginning.
The very beginning?
The very beginning.
Well, I started wrestling in 6th grade.
6th grade, okay.
And,
why wrestling? So
I was actually really into the WWE.
Nice.
That was what I grew up watching and stuff.
What wrestlers did you like?
Well, Brock Lesnar was actually a big one of mine, which is funny because he became a mixed martial artist later. And I was just a fan of so many. I was just a fan of the whole thing. It wasn't I hated people and liked them. Yeah. It was I liked Kurt Angle a lot.
You liked the thing.
Yeah.
You liked the thing of professional wrestling. Okay.
I was really into it.
All right, so you were a fan. So you're a fan of that, and it's hey.
Yeah. Well, actually, the reason that I even started wrestling was my best friend Austin Whitcar. Shout out to Austin. R.I.P. as well. He passed away last year, but he was actually the one that talked me into it because my older brother, who's 2 years older, had wrestled. I think it was in 6th grade or middle school or something, and he did not like it. So he was telling me, you're not gonna like it. Yeah. And then Austin was actually yeah, dude, let's do it, because he was in the WWE too.
So then, WWE,
and he actually only wrestled in 6th grade, and I did it and fell in love with it, And it was one of those things where it was that became what I was super into, what my identity was, and then It was back in the day for the UFC and stuff, and I remember watching the UFC and my brother being dude, all these guys are wrestlers and stuff. So I was oh shit, I guess I'm gonna do this when I get older, kind of thing, So that's kind of all through my wrestling career, I knew I wanted to be a mixed martial artist and to fight and stuff like that. I just never had the ability to until I graduated high school.
Okay.
And then it was actually a little bit before I graduated high school. I started training.
Okay.
And I was training with Travis Smith, my old MMA coach, my first MMA coach ever, and we were training in my friend Pedro Silva's garage. And they were teaching me some stuff. I trained there for a month, I think, before my first fight. And then my first fight was actually a week after I graduated high school.
A week after graduating high school.
So I didn't know what I was doing. I just wrestled the person. That's basically my first 3 fights were straight just me wrestling everyone.
Because that's mainly what you knew.
Yeah, and I was afraid to get hit or even didn't know how to hit anybody or anything like that. So
okay.
But
and this is in Indiana?
Yeah, yes sir. And the area South Bend, Indiana is the main area, Notre Dame, kind of northern Indiana.
Okay.
Specifically, I'm from North Liberty, Indiana, though. Shout out to North Liberty.
So so pretty much you go all right, MMA, this is it, and then so how did you find your first MMA coach?
It was actually, I was dating a girl, and her older sister was dating somebody who had fought previously and was a member of my future team, the Bulldog fight team and stuff. So I met Travis through him.
Okay.
And it kind of started out as a joke. I went to my first MMA event ever, the event before I fought. I fought at MFL 29, I think. 28 was the first one I ever saw. I saw my future coach Todd Brown fight Sean Salmon, the one that got head kicked by Rashad Evans. And Todd finished him in the first round pretty quickly. But it was one of those things where I'm oh, you should let me train with you, as a joke. But I was serious as fuck, I'm this is my end, this is how I'm doing this,
You're a young kid about to get out of high school.
Yeah. And with no plans, college definitely was not for me. I didn't even really want to try and be in debt, and then I definitely screwed up my senior year wrestling as well, so I was like, I need redemption from this, kind of thing.
Like what makes you say that you meant like just like performance wise or?
Yeah, like I made it so Indiana's kind of different for wrestling. They have a sectional, regional, semi-state, and state. So they only have one state champion.
Oh, wow.
A lot of places have divisions. Yeah, so
because of districts.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's like fucking. There's only 16 people that make it to state. So like it's really tough to get in there. You gotta be you gotta be really good. So I made it to semi-state my sophomore and junior year, so everybody's like, dude, he's the one, like he's gonna make it,
he's gonna do it.
Yeah, and then with a lot of stuff going on in my life, I kind of just like mentally broke in the way of like, and I did tear my shoulder my senior year as well, which I ended up getting fixed like after my 4th MMA fight. I think I like waited and stuff like that and waited until it was too bad to not get repaired, like
hey, it's kind of messed up. Get hold up.
But yeah, so I just like kind of messed up, didn't even make it out of sectionals my senior year, which was like a total letdown compared to like being 2 matches away from going to state, which is like when you make the semi-state. And then so yeah, I was like still looking to it, but even throughout my whole senior year, throughout everything, I still like in the future I wanted to be an MMA fighter. I just didn't know if it would be like me going to college and then doing it, or like just jumping straight in, which I ended up jumping straight in.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, like as you said, like your first couple fights, you're pretty raw.
Yeah.
From there, so like, what do you remember?
I remember in my first fight, I really didn't have any nerves. It was in Elkhart, Indiana, at the RV Hall of Fame. It was like the smallest show ever. There was like
what would you say the audience size was?
If anybody knows Elkhart, they know the cut, like just straight man, like a lot of I can't really put a name on it. Like there's some trailer parks in Elkhart and some bad sketchy people, Okay. No offense to anybody from Elkhart, because I've been around there. But,
just a bunch of angry emails from people. Well, they would need to find a computer first.
Yeah, for real. But
okay.
But yeah, so I remember I was the typical, kick from distance, keep backing up, and then just shoot in from far away, close my eyes when somebody's throwing punches like that.
Okay.
I remember like the first exchange I had in the fight, actually, I body kicked my opponent that we ended up becoming friends. I kicked him like hard, and he like it didn't even affect him. And then later, like, we had talked about it, and he's like, no, dude, you kicked the shit out of me. Like, if you would have hit me in the body again, it might have been, like, pretty bad. And I was like, damn it! Like, like...
But you just didn't get
years later. But, and then I ended up just taking him down. I think I tried to slam him, and it was, like, a little, like, barely slammed him kind of thing. And then it was pretty much just, like, being on top, just smothering him the whole time. Like, looking for submissions, but being too afraid to, like, commit to anything, to end up on bottom or anything like that. So that was a decision. I think it was 30-27. I won all 3 rounds. But
okay, and then so that's like what, about a month?
That's like, I don't even like, thinking back, I'm like, I think I was training for like a month and a half, and like the first days is like learning even how to throw a punch and stuff, like learning how to stand. It's like all that stuff. Like I went in very green.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you win your first fight. Like how are you feeling?
I mean, you're on top of the world after that first one, no matter how
it looked.
Yeah, how it looked, how it turned out, as long as you won, So I was like on top of the world, and I was like, thought I was just the shit after that, That's kind of how I feel like everybody that starts fighting gets after that first win. And then it was like one of those things where it was like, man, that was a lot of work to put in. I'm doing it again, like that, like kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I was just on top of the world for sure.
Okay, and then how soon was it when you did your second fight?
I think I fought in June 8th in 2013 was my very first fight ever. I think.
Just graduated.
Yeah, I had graduated the week before, I'm pretty sure. And then I think my second fight was in August. So. And in between that, I took a whole month off of training and didn't do shit. So it was like July I trained all of, like June I took off, and then I started training in like the middle of July or something, then fought in the end of August, I think. And I actually ended up going from Pedro's garage And I actually met Todd Brown, my coach, when I stepped into the cage for my first fight. He cornered me, and he was like, I like had never met him. I knew who he was and stuff, but like our first interaction was like him telling me to pass the dude's guard and be like, "You're gonna fucking pass the guard." And I was like, "Oh shit, this stuff's for real!" Like, you know, like right in the corner, taking the kid down. And yeah, Todd ended up liking me and inviting me to train at his gym, which was Midwest Mixed Martial Arts at the time, and the Bulldog Fight Team and stuff like that. And that was pretty much like, I mean, in northern Indiana, it's still the only gym that you can go to learn how to fight. You know, there's some jiu-jitsu gyms, but it's not like it's recreational jiu-jitsu kind of thing. It's not going to get you ready to get punched in the face or anything like that.
It's not really geared towards like competition.
Yeah, exactly. No. Well, most of the coaches didn't have at least an extensive fighting career like Todd did, like going to the UFC and stuff like that. So it's very hard for somebody to teach you stuff that really hasn't experienced it a lot of times.
Yep, got it. So that's where you ended up. So how'd your second fight go?
My second fight was pretty much more of the same. I actually fought a guy though that was a burn victim, and I mean this with all the respect. His face was like a total scar, and it was literally probably the best thing for me because it was the most scared I've ever been, just because of like his physical appearance. Like when I saw that I was fighting him, I think I was slated for one opponent and he pulled out, and then I ended up fighting this guy. And like back then, I mean, like you're not picking your opponent or anything. I mean, I still really don't, but like you don't even know who you're fighting until like a few weeks.
You're like, oh, that's the guy.
Yeah. So it was like one of those things where I thought I was fighting somebody, and then like 2 weeks before I found out I was fighting somebody else, and I saw a picture of him, I was like, dude, what the fuck? Like, I'm not doing this. And then I like watched some of his fights, and he was like good too. Like he like knocked the dude down with a punch and shit. So I was like, oh fuck, man. Shit. Like I was like,
Freddy Krueger's coming after me.
Yeah. Actually, the person who helped like talk me into fighting was Ed Johnson, Smoking Ed. Shout out to him. But I used to ride to him to practice every day. Like I would meet him someplace, and we would just drive to practice, and like me and him became pretty tight after that, and like we're best friends now and stuff. But I showed him who I was fighting, and he was like, "Oh no, man, don't worry about it." And then like talking to him now, he was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Oh fuck, man." but he was like literally the reason. I was like, "Well, if he thinks it's okay, man, like he's had fights before,
I should be fine."
Yeah, exactly. Like the older, like the big brother kind of thing, where I'm like, "All right, yeah, fuck yeah, I'm gonna do this now." Right. So ended up pretty much doing the same thing, like wrestling him pretty much. I like lat through him and stuff like that, and so it was a good experience. And it was in an old baseball, or not an old baseball arena, it's home of the South Bend Cubs now. It used to be the South Bend Silverhawks, but that's what it was. I'm not exactly sure what the name of that's like.
But it's like a minor league baseball.
Yeah. So it was pretty cool. We were like on the diamond. There was a lot of people there. It was like pretty cool. It was outside, so it was like kind of sketchy too, because it was like if it rains that day, we're not fighting. We're fighting like the next week.
I know,
so it was like
those outdoor cards.
Man, they're not, especially in August. It was like kind of late, so it's like lucky that it was like good weather and didn't like rain or like snow or something in Indiana. You never know. So.
Okay. So kind of more of the same from there. So what? I guess like. How the next couple fights go for you?
The next couple... Oh, actually, there is one thing that I should mention, too. Yeah. The reason that I specifically wrestled these guys, too, and, like, there was nothing... Because Indiana actually had a rule at that time. It was called a novice rule, to where you couldn't strike your opponent in the head on the ground. So there was no ground and pound. Yeah. Okay. But, like, it doesn't make sense because you didn't wear shins. Like, everything standing was fine.
Oh, so there's no shin pads?
There's no shin pads. Like, you're just wearing normal MMA gloves. Like, now it's changed a little bit. Well, in Indiana, there's no novice rule anymore, but you don't wear shin pads still. Like, the West is, like, the only place that I've experienced that you wear shin pads as an amateur and stuff like that. But, so there was no ground strike. So it's like, these guys, I probably could have finished, like, because I was on top the whole time. I probably could have landed, but there was no punches at the ground, so it's like
you can only go for submissions.
So I'm just like holding them, waiting for, looking for something. I don't even know anything at that time. I'm like freaking straight out of high school, barely even have done jiu-jitsu, put on a gi maybe one time kind of thing.
So pretty much just wrestling.
Yeah. Okay. So my third fight was the same, but I actually ended up finishing that one in the third round with an arm triangle.
How long are the rounds?
3 minutes. The same.
Okay,
so
three
threes.
Threes.
Yeah, same thing. But the only difference is you don't wear shin pads, which is, I mean, it's kind of good to get that experience, but it's like you're not really, like, you're not getting paid for it. So it's really sketchy to get kicked in the head when you're not getting it, like, nothing for it.
Or if you, like, break your shin or something.
Exactly. So it's like, I mean, it was no big deal to me. I didn't know any different. But now looking back, I'm like, dang, man, that's probably a smart thing that they wear at least some kind of shin protection. It's not like you're wearing an actual shin pad. It's just a thin layer.
Yeah,
but, you know,
it's a
like,
big sock.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's what it is. But okay, so. Oh yeah, what weight class are you fighting at?
I was fighting at 135 at the time, so
Okay.
I was a lot smaller at this time. I was 19, so I was just like a younger boy.
Yeah.
So I was like really skinny and stuff like that.
Okay,
Like,
and then what weight class did you compete at wrestling?
138 actually my senior year.
So
Yeah, so
pretty
I went
close.
down a little bit, but it was like consistently making 138 is one of those things, and then it was like. Yeah, so that's what I wrestled my senior year was 138, and then fought 135, and I fought 135 up until I think my 7th fight.
Okay.
And then I went up, which I should have went up before that because like I was cutting like really hard for no reason, you know. But
cut really hard, not getting paid.
but but you never. I mean, you don't even think about that stuff.
Especially when you're young.
Yeah, for sure.
Isn't that right, young Ender?
Yeah.
No thinking involved. Okay. Sure. Okay, so so you had your first couple fights, bang, bang, bang. So,
Yeah.
But how's the training going?
Pretty much just showing up and sparring, man. That's kind of what we did back in the day, you know. I mean, I was surrounded by a lot of guys that were good. So, Ed Johnson, who I mentioned before, was like a really big part. He still is he has taught me so much in my MMA career. I used to thank him after every fight, on the microphone, because he would help me so much. Me and him would be getting ready. So it was I was surrounded by a lot of guys, but I was still getting fucked up and sparring every day. I remember a lot of days, there's a reason my face is as ugly as it is. It's not like the fights. I've only gotten hurt in 2 fights, basically. Most of
mainly
it's
the training is what it did.
At practice. And it's I'm a smaller guy, so it's you just spar with everybody because there's not that many guys in the room. So it's you're getting beat up by bigger guys, smaller guys, So I'm showing up, I'm training hard. I think I'm training hard at that point. Looking back now, it's it seems like I barely even trained, but when you're going in and sparring every day, there's only so much you can do as well, because you're kind of breaking down your body too.
Okay. And then alright, so let's see, we've got over 3 fights already?
Yeah.
Okay, so how was fight number 4?
Number 4, so I think my 3rd fight was in October.
Okay.
And then my 4th fight was in February of 2014. Okay. And that was the first one where I could strike to the head on the ground, so it was
Was it, what happened? Was the novice rule?
Novice rule is for your first 3 fights, I think.
Oh, so afterwards.
Yeah, so after the 3, it was now you can strike to the head, and then it was had to be agreed upon by the opponents, though.
So both fighters need to agree.
Yeah. Okay. And actually my fourth fight was against the same guy that I fought for the first fight.
Oh.
So shout out to Marshawn Hughes. I fought him twice, and the Black Samurai. Yeah, and it was more the 4th fight, I was slated to fight somebody at 135, and then 2 weeks before, he was I can't make the weight, and then it was my coach was well, where are you at? And the dude's 160, and he's don't even fucking talk to me. Yeah, he's you just signed up for something you knew you couldn't do, or you're just you're definitely not about this. So then Marshawn took it on short notice, thankfully, because Marshawn will fight anybody he doesn't give a shit, man. And then I ended up doing pretty well in that fight. It was actually a tough fight. We both improved a lot, and I remember he caught me in a deep triangle choke, and we knew it was coming. He finished a few of his fights. I think he was on a 6-fight win streak or something, because he would fight in Michigan. Michigan wasn't sanctioned, so you could fight there every weekend. So crazy dudes would go there every weekend. I think he fought the night before he fought me. Also, he fought in Michigan the night before he fought me. So
Marshawn get no fuck.
Yeah, Marshawn's crazy, man. There was a lot of guys that were like that. They would just fight fucking. They were just about fighting. They didn't give a shit. And I respect that, but I'm dude, you're crazy, man. That's pretty nuts. But we knew he was gonna throw up a triangle, so luckily I went over to the fence of that, defended it, and then I ended up finishing him with an arm triangle choke in the 3rd as well. So I finished 2 fights in a row with my arm triangle.
Okay.
And in my early fights, you can see me going for it, but I didn't really know what I was doing. So I got him in the arm triangle position, I just couldn't finish it.
You're nice. After a few months, I got it.
Yeah. So it's I finally got it. It's yep.
Yeah.
Got that down. So yeah. And then after my 4th fight, actually, I ended up getting my labrum repaired on my left shoulder.
Oh, so you probably got your shoulder that you entered senior year almost a year ago.
Yeah, my senior year, I was having problems with my shoulders, and then the break in between my training and wrestling was oh, it's healed now, and then it was just like destroying it during
it was
training,
just good
basically.
enough to not get
pretty much. And then after that it was like I have to get this repaired, you know, like I couldn't sleep and stuff like that. Like it was really like, thinking back now I'm like, dude, I'm lucky I didn't like lose my mind over that shit, because it was like some serious pain. It was actually torn in 8 places like around it, so it was like holding on by like a thread. So like I don't know if that makes it better or worse, but it was a really bad experience. I've had a lot of friends that have had labrum tears. It's pretty common in like mixed martial arts and wrestling and stuff, and like a lot of them don't come back the same from it, which luckily I've come back like same-ish. I did really like, I was really on like the therapy, like physical therapy and stuff like that.
So how long was the recovery time for that?
I'm not exactly sure. I know that I didn't train for I think 3 months, and I lifted though. I would still like do legs like every day because I couldn't work because I didn't have an arm and stuff. So I was just like living at my aunt and uncle. Thankfully they let me live with them and like kind of just like help me out through there along with my mom, and I was like lifting every day, and then I know that I fought in December of that year.
Okay.
So
that was fight number 5 for you?
Yeah, that was number 5, and that one was actually for the 135 belt for the MFL, the Michiana Fight League, the promotion that I fought all of those fights for.
Okay.
So and I ended up fighting Eric Ellington. And he had just started. He's actually on a tear right now. He's like 6-1 as a pro. He already fought for Bellator and stuff. He's really good. But I think I was like his second fight, and I beat him by decision. And he was a really good wrestler. So that was actually the first fight that I kept standing. It was like stuffing the takedown. Like I ended up on top and reversed him a lot of times, but I don't think I shot in at all because I was like, dude, he's a way better wrestler than I am. So shit, because he wrestled in college and had like a kind of successful career, I'm pretty sure. So I was just like, yeah, screw that. And then so got the decision win with that too.
And your shoulders feeling fine?
Yeah, my shoulder was good. As much as I can remember, I don't think I had a single problem with it in the fight. But throughout all of this, I was doing a thing like, I remember my first 4 fights, I was specifically not doing certain things that would hurt my shoulder. Because so it's like certain positions I would just like give up.
All right.
And like
because like not working with this shoulder.
Yeah, pretty much. Like I'm not gonna defend this takedown, just take me down kind of thing. And I know that I did that after that shoulder surgery as well. Like I was like, I'm still gonna be careful, because if you tear it again, it's like a big problem. You know? So it's like, was really careful with it, and it worked out pretty well.
Nice. So you mentioned your family. So your family was pretty supportive of you?
For the most part. My parents actually got a divorce my senior year of high school, and I didn't talk to my dad for a few years after that. So it was just pretty much me and my mom, and she was really supportive. She supported me through like my senior year of wrestling. I don't think I would have actually been able to like finish high school if it wasn't for her and stuff like that. And she was really supportive, and all my family was like, you know, like they can see like that's what I was going to do. It wasn't one of those things like anybody could talk me out of anyways, you know. So it was like they didn't even try. They were just
they just saw like, well, he's not changing his mind, so I might as well help him.
Yeah, so everybody was pretty supportive. All my family out to the fights and stuff like that. It was really cool. So all of them were, I can't really, like, they were super supportive. I'm really lucky with that.
Okay, so let's see. So that was fight number 5. And that was, did you say like late, like was that December?
Yeah, that was December,
like 2014.
5th. 2014. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so then how was fight number 6?
Number 6. Oh, and I don't quote me on any of these dates because I may be wrong.
I was like, I don't need the dates.
Exactly. It's all on Tapology. Go look on there. It's way more specific. But so my next fight was, I think, in March of 2015. Of 2015. And this is when I was like, I just won the belt, so I was like super motivated, super fucking like cocky. As I look back, at the time I didn't think I was cocky, but I was like, you know, I was like 5-0, so I was like, fuck yeah, I've been like fought some tough people now, so I'm like, you know, think I'm the shit. I'm like training really hard. Everybody knows me as like, you know, an MMA fighter now. They're like saying my name on the radio and shit. So I'm like, think I'm the man, you know, South Bend, Indiana, you know. So so then actually that fight, I fought a guy named Shane Perkey, who he wrestled for a rival school of my school. I went to John Glenn in North Liberty, Indiana, and he went to Jimtown, and Jimtown is like, we fucking hated him kind of thing.
It's a big high school.
Yeah, so it was like one of those things, like Jimtown had a really good wrestler when I was in high school. His name was Nick Kroom, and he won state his senior year, but I ended up in his weight class a few times, and he just fucking pinned me he was just way better than me, like, kind of thing. Really. So it was one of those things where I, like, had a chip on my shoulder. I'm like, yeah, fuck him, like, kind of thing, you know? so like, I go in, like, I'm like, I'm like training really hard, and like, I'm still fighting at 135, and this is when I started going to Strength Haven, which was it was a powerlifting gym, but it was my coach's gym, like, to get ready for his fights and stuff. And Dan Gibson was who ran it, and he's a really good he was really good at, like, just anything to do with physical, like, fitness and stuff. Like, he could make you out plans and diets and all that stuff. So I started going there, and I was getting stronger and, like, hitting leg days all the time. Yeah. Because everybody made fun of my skinny legs when I was younger. So it was, like, one of those things I'm like, I'll show you. And then, like, freaking squatted, like, 2 times a week forever. And then my legs. No, I'm just like, now if you say it, you're just wrong. Like, it's not even one of those things. It doesn't even hurt my feelings.
You're factually incorrect.
Yeah, like, you're just lying to yourself. Kind of thing. And so I went into this fight, and this was one where because Shane had fights before, and he was like I know he was an All-American in college for, like, UIndy, like, the University of Indianapolis, which is like I think it's a Division II school. So it's like one of those things where I was like, fuck, he's a way better wrestler than me too. I was like, hey, which was like, specifically my coaches were doing this, obviously, because, like, I couldn't progress if I didn't have to stand in fights, you know, because obviously I was reluctant in the fights where I could wrestle people. I'll just take him down and hold him. So I fought Shane, and actually the first thing that happened in the fight was he threw a big overhand and clipped me, and I was like, oh fuck, like, we're fighting for real, kind of thing. And then he ended up taking me down shortly after that and getting me in, like, a really deep armbar that later, like, after the fight, like a week after, I realized fucked my arm up so bad. Like, it was so close, it had to have been close to breaking, because it was like a softball in my arm after, but, like, during the fight, you know, you don't even feel it. I'm just like, I'm just not gonna tap. And then I ended up getting out of that, and he kind of gassed himself going for it, you know,
going real hard for it.
And then so I got him in a deep armbar after that, which later me and him became friends. I found out I fucked his arm up in it too. So both of us,
you guys just fucked up arm.
Both of us fucked each other up with basically the same armbar, and then so that was, like, pretty much the first round. I ended up on top, and then the second round I came out, I was, like, throwing at him, and then he tried to take me down. I reversed him, and then I ended up pounding him out, actually, for, like, a second round TKO, which was, like, the biggest thing, because, like, everybody, like, my coach just knew it was, like, one of those fights where it's like, all right, man, like, this is legit. So then I ended up winning that, and it was, like, a super big deal, since, like, he had, like, a really big crowd too, and I had a big crowd as well. So it was, like, one of those things where it was, like, a pretty big deal that I beat him, at least in my career it was. So it was, like, really cool. And then it was, like, you know, like, I am made for this shit kind of thing, which only made me more cocky, which was worse for kept feeding that which was worse for kept going. And so that was a really good experience. So that's, like, definitely the biggest win in my career, like, statistically wise, because I was supposed to, like, get beat, basically, you know?
And that was fight number 6. And then so was fight number 7 when you changed, or fight number 7 was your last fight at 135?
My fight number 7 was my last fight at 135. And actually I ended up moving out of my aunt and uncle's house. I fought my 5th fight, my 5th and 6th fight living with them, and then I ended up getting my own apartment. And, you know, I'm working, like, a full-time job this whole time.
What full-time job are you working?
So, in Indiana, there's not much to go from. It's either, like, I was in lawn care for a little bit, but trailer factories, like, RVs and stuff like that, is, like, that's where they're made. Like,
so like, making...
so it's, like, you know, I'm, like, becoming a better worker as well. Like, when I first got out of high school, I, like, did not know how to fucking work a full-time job. Like, I was just, like, didn't know, you know, it was, like, one of those things where I was kind of a slacker in school, and that really showed there. And then luckily I turned it around, so I was working a full-time job here, working a full-time job training, like as much as possible. You know, when you're working 10 hours a day, it's hard to train even 3 hours every day. So I was training a lot, but working my ass off as well. And then since I got my own apartment, I was, like, kind of, like, you know, I really thought I was a man then. And then so I actually blew cutting weight for that fight, and cut 10 pounds, I think, the day before.
Oh, shit.
So that, is what I attribute. You know, who knows? Maybe he would have beat me even if I made weight perfectly. It doesn't know. But like, I felt like shit during that fight.
Yeah.
And
like, how much are you walking around at this point?
Man, probably 155-ish. I think at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, actually, I think it was my 8th fight. That was my last time 35. We'll get into that though. But yeah. So I blew that weight cut 10 pounds, and this was against Eric Ellington again. He asked for a rematch.
So this is like a me rematch.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Like I fought Shane Perky in between the time, but he didn't fight anybody else. But it was also I think that was his 3rd fight, so he didn't have much experience. But he like had his wrestling, and he was like a really athletic dude. He was good. Yeah. So they were like, they were already talking about me like going pro, you know, after I beat Perky, because it was like one of those things where it's like, shit, man, he was like, he's good. So they were like, we're gonna find somebody that's just fucking like the same thing, supposed to beat you, you know, can stuff your takedown, is nasty standing, and then we'll see. And they couldn't find anybody. So then, all right, and then Eric's like I think he wanted the rematch, which I was like, I didn't give a shit, because I was just like, whatever, I'll just fucking beat him again, kind of thing. And I went into this fight super cocky, you know, like just, you should never be that cocky, I guess, but that's how I am as a person now. Looking back at the time, I just thought I was super confident and stuff like that. But he ended up beating me by decision, and it was a close fight, but like at the end of it, I knew I lost. It wasn't like one of those things where I was like, I was robbed. Like it kind of came down to a takedown in the 3rd, and we ended up in a scramble, and he ended up on top, and then it was like, that was pretty much it, you know.
Okay.
But he made a significant improvement from the first fight to the second. He was way better. He would throw with more intention and stuff like that. His stand up was getting better. So he was pretty good. And then so I lost my belt and stuff like that. And I was like, you know, it wasn't as bad because it was a decision loss. You know, compared to my 2nd loss, I don't really even look at that as a loss, because it was so close, you know. Like, getting beat by decision is just like, man, you know, if that fight would have went forever, you know, who would have, you never know, kind of thing. But that was definitely the first L on my record, so I was 6-1 at that time. Okay. I think. Yeah, 6-1.
Okay, and then you said you might have, you had one more at 135.
Yeah, and then the next one, I came back. I fought somebody else on short notice, I think, Devon Ellis, who was like a natural 135er, basically. Got back in the win column, worked my stand-up a lot. I think I ended up TKOing him in the 3rd round, and yeah, so then my confidence was back. And then after that one, actually, I kind of went on a tear. I think I fought 4 times in 4 months after that. You could look up my Tapology to make sure, but I'm pretty sure that's how it was, like bang, bang, bang. I was just fighting.
Look it up, Ender.
Yeah, Ender. Quote me on this. But,
he's like lying.
Yeah. Be like, actually,
this guy's 0-20.
Yeah, it wasn't even close. Yeah. So, but yeah, so after that, I think I took a short notice fight for the HFC at 155. So
so you went up.
Yeah, so I went up 2 weight classes because I was walking around. This is when I was I was going to Strength Haven for a while, so I was getting jacked because I was like basically a power lifter. You know, I was like lifting 5 days a week, heavy as fuck. Like, I made significant like strength improvements, and I was like just physically getting I was just a bigger person because of it. I think actually at that time, I ballooned up to like 175 after I cut to 135. Like, because I remember cutting to 155. I still had to cut weight to 155 after fighting 135. So it was, that last cut to 35, I made it, but it wasn't fun. And it showed in my fight. You can tell I was just making sure not to gas and stuff like that. And like,
you're real concerned about your energy.
For sure. And so that was just one of those things. And then I fought, Brandon White for the HFC at 155, and I think he was like 6-0 at the time, or 5-0. Andrew?
Yeah. You went on like a 3-fight win streak. Just constantly.
Wait, you went like from 135 to 155?
Yeah. In like a few, it was like a month or something. Like, it wasn't that long of a time either. It was like a pretty quick fight, because I remember seeing that it was already like, Brandon White was supposed to fight somebody else. I asked Travis, my first MMA coach and like manager and teammate and stuff like that. I was like, hey, do you think you could get me this fight? And I was like, and he's like, yeah. And I had rolled with Brandon White previously. I went to his gym and cross-trained at Cologne's MMA. Shout out to Cologne's. But I cross-trained there quite a bit. And I rolled with him, and like, he didn't really, I think he was a higher belt than me at the time that I rolled, but he didn't really do anything to me, and I was like, you know, that's like a big deal. Like if you don't have if you can't stop a takedown, which in his earlier fights he got taken down and smothered kind of, and still ended up winning, even though he's just holding people in their guard and throwing up submissions and stuff like that. And it was like one of those things where I was like, you know, he had some pretty decent stand up, but I was like, if he doesn't have takedown defense, I'm not worried about it kind of thing. So I was like, took it on short notice. I like asked Travis, I was like, you think I can win? He's like, yeah. I'm like, let's do this.
Let's do it.
Yeah, like freaking took it. And then that was actually a great experience for me fighting outside of the MFL.
Okay.
Because
this is your first fight outside.
Yeah, because MFL was in South Bend at the South Bend Century Center, which is just like an event center that's in the middle. So like, it was just really close to home. You know, my apartment was like 10 minutes away from the Century Center kind of thing.
Shit.
Like, so it was like really cool for fights like to be that close, which brings a whole nother element to like cutting weight and stuff. And I'll get into that later because I just recently discovered how traveling and cutting weight is like a totally different deal than that you need to discover before you fuck up and do it like that, basically. But so I ended up fighting him at 155. Pretty much just held him down the whole time. He was really good at controlling things and like getting out of submissions and stuff, and won that by unanimous decision as well. And then I'm not sure exactly when I fought. Can you see
when?
I know I fought Brandon White in November, I think, because I know it was like my brother's birthday. It was close to that.
So it's like November 2015.
Yeah, I think I fought then, and then I think I fought in December of that year.
Like a month later.
So I fought October, November, December.
Oh shit!
So I guess that's 3 in a row. Yeah. So I guess 3, not 4.
Against Andrew Karsten.
Yeah, Andrew Carson. Okay. Who that was actually a fight where Carson had fought his record on there is not like he had a bunch of unsanctioned fights. He fought a bunch of my teammates. He had like 20 fights probably overall kind of thing, which he was like just a solid guy where it was like had tough battles with some people, and that was actually one of my favorite fights because I didn't have to cut any weight. Like
was it 155?
Yeah. And this was like really close to Thanksgiving, and I remember like us talking to Travis and being like, yeah, neither one of us want to cut weight, so we just fought at 55 again because it was like one of those things where we're like, yeah, fuck this, like it's gonna be the same whether we cut or not, like, you know. So I ended up fighting him, and I remember in the first round, he actually initiated the wrestling, and he was a way better wrestler than I thought he was going to be. Like, he was really close to taking me down. I reversed him, and I remember dropping like a knee where I like lifted both of my legs off the ground and kneed him like on the ground from side control, and he screamed so fucking loud, and I was just like, oh my god, like, you know, I've never had anybody scream like that. And he was like screamed, and then later I found out like I like must have broke his ribs or like really hurt him with it. But the fight continued. I ended up rear naked choking him in the second though, and that was a really fun fight just because it was in this it's called the Bendix Theater in the Century Center, and it's like a pit, so like the crowd goes up, it's like a coliseum, so it's like super loud, and like I mean that was the time. I mean, I was fighting long enough that like all my friends were coming. It was like the thing where like all my friends would get together, so it was like the best thing, especially when I won, and then it was like we could all party after. It was just like a really great time. You see everybody that you haven't seen in a while because of stuff like that, so that was like really, really cool. And I guess I forgot to mention too that my older brother, started training with me after my first
loss. The one
that
trained wrestling and then did like...
that one. And he's 2 years older than me, and he started training after my first loss, and he trained with me for a year. I'm not exactly sure the dates that started, but he like progressed, and that was like a cooler thing that he would like walk out to me, like out with me to the cage, and was like part of the team and was like thinking about fighting and stuff. But Zach's a nice guy, so I was like, you don't have that like killer instinct to hurt someone. I didn't like
not built for this.
I was like, if you're gonna fight, and then he ended up, life takes over. He like went back to working too much to be able to train and stuff like that. But that was a really cool experience for me to have my brother like training with me, getting ready for fights as well, and stuff like that.
My brother doesn't train. Yeah, it's Red Jared. Call me out. You wuss. Have fun with your business. You pussy. Anyway, back to Ryan. Brother, just touch it.
All right.
Quick no shout out to my brother.
Like, damn.
You coward.
But
so Oh wait, so what fight are we at now? Like 9 or is it 10? No,
I think I was 9-1 at that time.
Yeah, you were.
Yeah. So fight 10.
So I guess I like redeemed myself with the like losing and then winning like 3 in a row, where I was just like, all right, I'm back, I'm the man again, like kind of thing. And
that was just a minor detour to being the man.
Yeah, right. And then, and then I think my next fight after that was in March of 2016.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so that was a longer layoff than I wanted in
so
between.
about 3 or 4 months? Oh, because your last fight was in November?
It was in December. But the beginning of December, I think, or December like 15th, somewhere around that time.
Okay.
Yeah. So then it was like a longer layoff than I had been used to, actually, other than like my shoulder surgery.
Yeah.
So like because when you get on that roll, I don't know, it's just like you're way more confident to fight again.
You got that momentum to be like, all right, ready, let's just keep
like
going.
Once you win, you're like, fuck, I'll fight next week, especially when you're not injured. And that was exactly the thought that I had from it, from that first loss. It kind of lit a fire under my ass. And so then I ended up fighting 145. I fought.
Oh, so this is your first fight?
Yeah. This is my first fight at 145.
You took it backwards.
Cutting down. And then
Michael Johnson.
Yeah, I fought Michael Johnson, who, shout out to Michael Johnson, he's a cool dude. I'm friends with him now. He actually does like the streams and stuff for gaming. He's got like a lot of followers on Mixer, dude. He's killing it.
Mixer.
And, which is like for Xbox. So like I saw him actually start it. That's why I'm like bringing it up, because I saw when he had like nobody, and now he has like 10,000 people or something. Like he's really about it. Yeah, no, dude, he's killing it. But he was what I consider my first loss.
Okay.
Because the first exchange that we had, he threw a one hook. So he threw a jab hook and fucking destroyed my face with it, basically. Like totally, I could hear the crowd go, "Oh!" I didn't like go down, but I like was wobbled, and then it was like straight. I had never been hurt like that before, so I was so scared. All I did was like wrestling mode, like shoot in, take him down. And dude, Michael was really good at like keeping the distance, keep pounding on me, and he ended up finishing me in the second with a TKO. And I remember in between rounds, like my coach giving me advice, and I don't remember what he was saying. All I remember is seeing 2 of them and being like, my left eye is fucked, and he's gonna hit me with that same punch on the same side. So I was like, it's just something that you have to live through, to experience, because you don't know how you're going to react when you're hurt like that in a fight, especially a high-profile fight. Like, dude, there was a lot more people at that event than any of my other ones. Like, the place was packed. All my friends were there. Like, it was a really big deal. And of course, I didn't perform at that one where everybody comes in. But it was, it's a good experience. I'm glad that it happened to me, because I feel like a lot of people need to live through those kind of losses to make sure that they want to keep doing this.
It's kind of harsh circumstances.
Yeah, because winning's easy, and losing by decision's like not. I mean, it sucks, but it's not like getting your ass.
It's not as devastating as getting finished.
Yeah, exactly. And it was like, I mean, my face was all busted up after. It was like, that was the first one. It was like, I got hurt in that fight.
There's real consequences.
Yeah,
to this.
Exactly. To where it's like, man, this is like for real. Like,
and we're fighting for real.
Yeah, and with Michael, he had less fights than me. I think he was like 4-0 or 6-0 at the time. He didn't have many fights. Yeah. And like he was way smaller than me too. He fought 35 and made it pretty easily. So I was like kind of like. Not cocky, because I had learned my lesson with my first loss of that.
Yeah.
I guess I was cockier than I should have been, but I was like, he's gonna bring it, I'm gonna bring it. But like looking back, I'm like, I should have known that he was there to punch my face. He didn't care what I had accomplished before that, kind of thing. So after that, it was pretty traumatizing to me, actually.
Was there any like lasting injuries? Or?
Not really. My eye, it was. I remember going to work.
Was it just swollen? Or?
Yeah, I mean, it was swollen. My lips were all bruised up. I was like all beat up, kind of in the face and stuff like that. I think that was all that it was. But my eye was pretty messed up, and I actually like was the stubborn young. I don't know what I was at that time, like 22 maybe.
Okay.
I at that time, like the doctor tried to check me out, and I was like, no, fuck you, like get away from me.
I'm great.
And now I look back, I'm like, man, I should have got checked out. I was fucked up, And so I remember going to work after that, the Monday after the fight, and like coming home and just laying on the couch and having like the worst headache ever. So I'm pretty sure I had like some type of concussion, because it's like it's gonna happen when you get blasted too. But I never went out in the fight. Like I was, even the ending sequence when the ref pulled him off of me, I was still trying to stand up, but he just kept hammering on me. He can hit really hard, and like he wrestled in high school too, and I think he was pretty good. So I couldn't really take him down. In the first round, I know I took him down, took his back, couldn't choke him though. So it was like one of those ones where it's like, oh, still close, but like I was freaking beat up after that, and then he knew it, so he just kept coming at me and finished me, and but after that it was kind of traumatizing, that's like one of those losses that you kind of like, do I want to do this? Is this what I'm for? And I mean I shortly realized after that is what I want to do, like that's why I consider myself, like I always say to people, like, I was a fighter, I fought a bunch of times, but I wasn't actually, like, I didn't consider myself a fighter until until my record was 9-2, because that was like the loss that it was like, it would have been really easy to quit. People would have understood, like, I got my ass whooped in a fight, kind of thing. Got it. And for a lot of people, they don't experience that. Like, a lot of people don't even experience it, like, until they're in the UFC or ever, Like, some people, like...
That kind of devastating loss.
Yeah, like, some people aren't going to get knocked out or even hurt in their career, Or, like, a Frankie Edgar who got knocked out once and he's been fighting for frickin' ever or something. Or, like, a DJ who's, like, I think he only got dropped in, like, the... John Dotson fight. Like, that's the only fight he's ever been hurt in that's on that stage, at least. I don't know his previous record, previous
and beats him up in the gym all the time.
But it's one of those things where I look back and I'm like, I needed that for my career, even though it does suck, and it sucks that's like,
it sucks to learn that way, but it was still a good test.
Exactly. You need to learn some lessons the hard way, and in this sport they are learned the hardest way possible. Honestly,
like severe consequences.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you it's extremely hard.
It's not missing a free throw.
or getting tackled, or like missing a pass to a touchdown or something like that. Or even in wrestling, it's like the worst thing that's going to get to you is you're going to get pinned, which is nothing basically compared to getting almost knocked unconscious. So it was a good lesson. I'm really glad that happened. I think certain people need that in their career. Other people don't, because they just have they get hurt in fights and they just keep pushing through. But I obviously was not one of those people, because like once I got hit, it was like I was like a scared young boy again. All I wanted to do was wrestle.
Your mentality.
Exactly. Which now I know that I'm not exactly like that, but every fight's different, every experience is different.
Yeah, exactly. How would you have known if you didn't have that experience?
Exactly. And it's one of those things where it's like in practice, I mean, I come from a gym where we trained and sparred really hard, but it was still like, if somebody rocked you,
don't try to knock you.
If they rock you, they're gonna stop or hit you in the body. They're not gonna keep punching you in the face, like kind of thing.
It's totally different. Yeah, it's that different It's like a competition mode where people are there to take you out.
Yeah, exactly. Especially with somebody that like is a killer and wants to like hurt you, kind of. Like there's different fighters. There's some fighters that fight and they're just like looking to win, and then there's some fighters that are in there to kill you, like Robbie Lawler or something like that.
Oh no, definitely. Yeah, there's different mentalities, but yes, some people are there to fuck you up.
Yeah, exactly. Even if they're not better than you, it's like everybody hits hard, like and some people hit really hard just naturally. So that was a good lesson. And then I know I bounced back from that and got my 10th win against...
Andrew, just look at that.
Yes.
What was it? Okay, look up his 12 fight.
The fight after Michael Johnson. I can't remember the dude's name, but he had a lot of fights in Michigan as well, so it was like a good...
Man, Michigan's still on sanction, huh?
Dude, Michigan's sanctioned now. It was I think it got sanctioned in like
pretty late?
Yeah, like 15, like the end of that year, or
maybe 3 or so years ago.
It was pretty just crazy.
Well, I mean, we live in a world where like New York was like
exactly
legal. I was like, that's
Christopher Nix, is that
Chris Nix, and I beat him by decision. And
this is 145 stuff.
Yeah, this is 145. This is my second time 145, and this was a big fight for me just because
after a comeback fight.
After getting knocked out like that, like you're gonna be kind of scared to stand with something.
Kind of question.
Because you don't want it to happen. And and if you watch the fight, you can definitely tell that I questioned myself standing. I shot in pretty quick. Actually, I did better than I think I did when I watched the video. It's like, I wasn't like scared standing. I just like was looking for the takedown, obviously, which is like you should do that anyways if you're better than somebody on the ground.
Using your strikes?
Yeah, exactly. But it was one of those fights where I was on top a lot, did some good things, but just couldn't finish the kid. He was pretty tough.
Yeah.
And then after that, I think was the longest layoff I had. I'm pretty sure my longest layoff other than my shoulder surgery for really not exactly no reason. I'm a hunter, and like in Indiana, I mean, it's a big thing. Like, there's not much else to do in Indiana. But, like, it's
no, I can see.
Yeah.
I've watched Stranger Things.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So it's like I'm a hunter. So I hadn't hunted since I was younger because, you know, wrestling season is during hunting season, which is like
no
later.
For MMA.
Yeah, exactly. So there's no off season. So I fought almost every single, like, if you look at all these fights, they were October, November, December. That was like the main time of year I fought.
Season?
Yeah, that's hunting season in Indiana for whitetail deer. So I was like, shit, man, I want to like do this again, you know. And it's like a big thing with my family. We grew up, and this is one like
a family thing.
Yeah, me and my dad had then started talking again. You know, I didn't talk to him for a few years, but me and my dad were like, I mean, we like clicked back and like we hadn't not talked for years, you know. And so then it was like a bigger thing that me, him, and my brother like hunt, you know. So it was like one of those things where I was like, you know, I had a fight coming up and it was close to hunting season.
Yeah.
And I was like getting ready for it, and then the dude pulled out, I think 2 weeks before, and they were like, I'm gonna look for an opponent,
and then
and I was like, dude, fuck this, I'm gonna hunt, you know, because I had done that. A lot of fights that I had were all like a lot of my fights were on short notice. There's only a couple that were actually the whole training camp that I had was for 1 year. Yeah. I think Michael Johnson was actually like one of the only ones that it was like the whole time I was actually gonna fight him kind of thing. And then before that, it was a lot of short notice guys, and so it was just one of those things where I was just like, dude, why am I gonna fight? And the only guys they could find for me were like a guy that was 0-0 or something. Yeah, I was like, I'm 9-2 or like 10-2 or 10-1 at this time. Yeah,
fighting someone like not that much experience.
Yeah, and I'm like, it's not really worth it to me to like either take an L against somebody that doesn't know what they're doing, or just beat up somebody that doesn't like shouldn't.
Where does that get you?
Yeah, like they don't belong in me in there with me anyways. And it was, and the fight that they had slated for me was a tough guy, so I was like training pretty hard. I was like, this is a good fight, like good to test myself. And then of course he pulls out, so it's like, dude, screw this. So I hunted that year, and then I think the next fight after that I ended up fighting in March. And that was actually when I fought Josh Kim.
Okay.
So shout out to Josh. Me and him are bros now, and he's trained at AMC before and stuff, so everybody knows him. But that was a really big fight too, because it was Indiana versus California. So I was ranked number 1 in Indiana at this time on Tapology and stuff, and he was ranked number 1 in California. Or him and his brother were both ranked number 1 and number 2, like in all, like every weight class up to like 155 or something. Yeah. So like I ended up fighting him, and that was definitely the hardest I ever trained for a fight. I took a lot of private sessions with my coach and stuff like that, and that was actually the first fight that I was with my girlfriend that I'm currently with. So that just kind of grounded me. I was a little less wild, a little less like going out and partying and shit like that. I took everything a little more seriously.
Yeah.
And I met her at the gym, and she's a really big mixed martial arts fan as well. Like, was before I got with her. So, like, that's just something good to have in a relationship. Like, somebody that actually understands.
Yeah, she says what you do.
Yeah, exactly.
Supportive of that.
Yeah, and she's super smart.
Because it's kind of a crazy thing.
Oh, dude, I mean, if you have no idea, it's a totally different world than people that, like, people look at it on TV and they're like, think it's one way, and it's, like, totally different when you're actually in there and you're at the lower levels and stuff. Like,
no, and exactly. And to someone, especially, like, you know, having a partner that understands, like, like supports that, that's like,
it's a big. I'm very, very lucky to have her, and she does more for me than she'll ever know. But so that definitely helped me, you know, being a little more grounded. I mean, throughout all these fights, though, I'm still working a full-time job, so I'm still working full-time. But for that fight, I had a really good job that was like kind of cushier than the other ones I was working. I was like an inspector for RV parts, so I kind of just stood there. I kind of just stood there and like made sure people weren't fucking off and stuff like that. So that was it was way easier to go to practice after a 10-hour day of that than busting your ass, you know. And it definitely showed. I had a pretty tough fight with Josh Kim. We thought I was up 2 rounds in going into the third, and you know, I gassed a little bit, and Josh is a finisher, man. He was good. He ended up taking my back and finishing me, and he shouldn't. It's like a lot of things. It's like, oh, like, you know, I may have gasped, but he shouldn't have been on my back anyways. You know, he was good. He fought really tough the whole time, and you know, that was one of my tougher fights, especially we headbutted in the first round. I took him down, and I was coming down into his guard, and he was coming up, and we headbutted. And of course, I was like split open from it. I actually was scarred from it. And he was fine. And so I'm like, great, I'm fucking bleeding all over. He was fine. And that was actually for the. It was at the Michiana Fight League. It was for the Michiana Fight League, but it was like the elite. Elite Fighting League or something. It's like the amateur like championship kind of thing. Okay. So it was like televised and stuff like that. Yeah, it was like it was bigger. I mean, it didn't really matter. Like, but it was like team versus team. So like he won it for his team actually finishing me, because you get like 6 points for a finish. Which if I wouldn't have got finished, if I would have like pulled guard or something and not tried to stand up and let him take my back, like we would have ended up winning. But like
whatever. Yeah, it's an
exactly
sport, like
exactly. Which that's that's what everybody, like nobody cared. But it's just like, for the record, I did blow it for Team Indiana. But I really don't care, because like, you know, I'm not the type of person to like get in a tough situation where and pull guard or something like that. You know, I'm always going to try to stand up. I'm always going to fight my hardest, like, and that's just kind of how I've just like discovered that of myself over the years. You know, I'm not gonna
like, that's what you're gonna do.
Exactly. Like, I'm never gonna pull guard and just be like, just lose the third round and win this. You know, I mean,
that's not the kind of fighter. That's not the kind of person you are.
Exactly. And I don't know if I'll ever be that person. You know, maybe for the right amount of money or something, it gets a little different then, when it's half of your paycheck rather than an amateur fight that doesn't really matter. But so I don't regret that. That was actually the best I had ever fought up until that point. So like, even though it was a loss, I still looked at it in such a positive light. And I gained a good friend out of it in Josh, who was really cool after the fight, you know, invited me out to California to train. Like, me and him stayed in touch. He's like one of the nicest guys I've ever met. So I was like, you know what? Like, it was a good experience taking that L, actually, against another person that's worthy of beating me, you know, because he was 9-1 at the time. Like, he had a lot of fights too. Going into the fight, I was like, fuck, man.
They're kind of good.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, him and his twin brother, who's also super good, is kind of good. So, so that was a good experience. And then after that fight, my girlfriend had finished college. She went to Notre Dame, so she had finished, and she knew that she was going to move away. And then, like, I mean, I knew I was going to move with her, you know, since we were together for about a year at that point. And then, so we ended up moving to Cincinnati, Ohio.
Okay.
And not super ideal where to live for the MMA scene. There's some good gyms there. I trained at Vision MMA, which was a good gym. There were some good people, but I never got comfortable enough there. I think we only lived there for like 8 or 9 months, maybe 10. Not very long. Not long enough to establish like a relationship with the coaches and like get into fight shape and stuff like that. Considering after the Josh Kim fight, I didn't like train really hard.
Okay.
Since I knew I was moving there, I just
you're like, okay, well, time to take a break.
Exactly. I was like, you know what, like, take a break, because you got to think also at this time I had went from wrestling in high school from 6th grade.
Yeah.
I was like an off-season wrestler. In high school, I would like train in the off season really hard. I would still go to open mats. I would still wrestle. Like, that was why I was actually decent. You know, it's like I worked my ass off to be good. It's not like my parents supported me to wrestle or anything like that. Like, they actually didn't want me to wrestle. So it was like one of those things
How
where
would you stop wrestling?
Yeah. So it was like
no,
like because it was just one more thing for them like to have to pay for, to like give me rides to, which I totally understand now. At the time, I thought they were just assholes, but like you know, I couldn't imagine being in that situation. And so they weren't, my mom was more supportive than my dad. They would come to my wrestling matches, especially like semi-state, you know, when I made it like to the things, but like, you know, traveling for wrestling matches freaking all over. So it was like hard for them.
So you put in a lot of work to get.
Yeah. So that was like years of me just straight, not really taking a break, not really letting my wounds heal. Like, so after, like, as I progressed in fighting, as my record got better and I started getting, like, I guess just more level-headed with my old age, where I was just like, yeah, man, I just need to take a little more of a break.
Yeah, I'm just like, hey, man, I can't push. You can only redline your body
exactly.
so much.
And you don't want to break your body when you're young. Like, I was only 23 at this time, I think. No, 22 at this time.
Yeah.
So... Or no, 23. So at that time, it was like, I didn't want to break my body before I even hit my prime. And that's like, I still think of that today. Like, I'm not in my prime yet. It's like, I don't want to break myself and like train super hard for no reason. Because like, then you're going to have existing injuries that you're like, oh, I tore my other shoulder for no fucking reason. For what? Because I was trying to win at practice or something. Like,
cool story, bro.
Exactly, man. Like, gym warriors don't win anything. Like,
they win hospitals.
Yeah.
That's what they win.
They win some expensive bills, and people at the gym probably hate you, but
cool.
I'm joking.
Awesome. But
so I trained in Ohio. That was a really good experience. I met a lot of cool people out there. There was a lot of good people for me to train with. And there was a really good black belt, Aaron. I'm shitty that I can't. Aaron Thomas, that's it. And he was a black belt under Carlson Gracie.
Okay.
And I'm a blue belt under Todd Brown, who's under Carlson Gracie Jr. as well. So like me and him clicked. He was really cool, really good teacher. I learned a lot of good stuff, and it was just good experiences for me to focus on training and not getting ready for a fight, because that's about the first time.
And also like a different scene.
Yeah, exactly. Not training with the same people I've been training with for 3 years or 4 years, and knowing exactly what they're going to do in every sparring session. I know what he's going to go for, and I know what I'm going to do, kind of thing. So it was really cool, and I took a lot away from that. And that was actually that's when I started understanding, I think, a lot better of like what I'm trying to do, and like, you know, I can actually understand that you need a game in jiu-jitsu. You can't just feel out what they're doing and just like
get like a deeper understanding of like what you're actually doing.
Exactly. And stuff like that. My striking, I was working with a boxing coach there, Lou Aldridge, who was Daniel Strauss's old boxing coach. Daniel Strauss, the one that fights in Bellator. He was the 145 champ. So he helped me with my boxing. Like me and him would do sessions all the time. He was awesome. He would like really helped my game with that. You know, that's why I credit him a lot to my boxing being as tight as it is now. Other than, you know, like my coach Todd, of course, he was the one that really brought me into it, and he was the one before I moved away. He was like, you know, you need to specifically work on like your boxing and your jiu-jitsu, and everything else will come, you know. Don't worry about kicking too much and stuff like that, because you need your hands to set up kick. Like, he was very smart about it, and I listened to him, and I'm really glad that I did, because now it's like my hands are the best part of my stand-up game. Even though, like, I mean, you can always work on everything, you know. I wouldn't say I'm a good stand-up fighter or anything, but if I wouldn't have done that, if I wouldn't have focused on one thing, I probably would just be, like, bad at everything.
Well, that's the thing, especially, you know, as you get more involved in something, like, you have to... those like huge big percentage gains are gone,
exactly,
because you're not a beginner, so you had to actually put focus, and then there's like pretty much any little improvements when you're like so far in.
Exactly.
I mean, it's
like everything that I figure out now that like changes my game, it's like the littlest thing. It's like
small.
It's like one of the jiu-jitsu sequences you were showing. It was like trapping the head, and it was like making their head look the other way was the biggest part that I was missing, and I was like, damn, if I wouldn't have figured that out, notice what I was doing wrong, you know, like I would have just not been able to do this. Like it's the littlest things like that when you get when you progress into the game.
When you're more, you know, when you're more intermediate, more advanced, because it's like. Because like the actual, because that's the thing, because it's not new to you anymore. Exactly. So now you have to you almost have to like see the things that aren't new.
Exactly. I agree with that 100%. And that is like exactly what happened. It was like the smallest progression in Cincinnati, but I made a giant leap of how good I got at in knowing like my game and like what I'm gonna do, and like just everything was way tighter, way better. And I really hold that dear in my heart going there, and those guys like taking me in and like not, because they were all cool. Every single person that I met there was like, fuck yeah, come train. You know, it was there was no like, you know, there's a certain vibe when you come into some gyms, you know, of like it's a tough guys sport. Everybody
just
wants
like how Ender treats people.
How Ender treated me when I got here.
Give me that cold shoulder, like, here's my towel.
Take this home and wash it and bring it back. But it's always a great experience when you go into gyms, and it's like, and I haven't I haven't really had any bad experiences with going to gyms and people not like letting me in, which I do attribute to me, like, as I've gotten older, I've just tried to be like a nicer person and a better person, stuff like that, because I used to be a dick, like the Ishmael name, like, I will say this straight up, like, we are just kind of assholes, and any of the Ishmaels that say no, like, you're just denying it, because we are, dude, like, we're all just like kind of assholes, and I've like done a really good job at fighting it, and like my, like, you know, I grew up, I was kind of a hothead and had like anger issues kind of thing, and I feel like I've really honed that as I've gotten older and stuff like that, and really got a handle on it. And I do attribute like the way that I am now to martial arts is like, you know, I would not be the person I am today if it wasn't for martial arts. You know, who knows how I would have been, you know. I could have been a drug addict, I could have been totally different, but I'm pretty sure nothing would have been positive if I didn't have this.
Martial arts was like the fire to kind of forge you from there. Okay.
Exactly. And so that was pretty cool. And then after Cincinnati, we ended up moving to Denver.
Okay.
My girlfriend got a job there, and like she always kept in mind like where I would be training at. So like we wouldn't move to like the middle of, I don't know, what's a really bad state to train at?
Alaska.
Like the middle of Alaska.
I don't know where to train in Alaska.
Yeah, exactly. Like she always kept in mind.
Look for some polar bears to wrestle.
Yeah, exactly. She always kept in mind that like me training is a big thing, and and we both care about that. She cares about it as much as I do.
Got it.
In a sense,
that it matters to you.
Exactly. She is super supportive. Like when I win, I feel better because I'm like we did this, fucking I didn't let you down kind of thing, because that's the initial feeling, even though I realize that when I lose she doesn't give a fuck, because she's gonna love me either way. It's not that I'm a fighter that she's with me, because like I said, she was into mixed martial arts and stuff way before I was with her, so it really helps with that. And so we ended up moving to Denver, Colorado. And I moved there kind of blindly. I didn't really know where I was going. And the funny thing is, like I didn't know where I was going to train. Dwayne Ludwig's is out there. There's a lot of good gyms out there.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is that Ed Johnson, the one that I mentioned earlier, him and his girlfriend Claire, who also fights, she's going to make her pro debut soon for Invicta. Shout out to Claire, because she's a beast. But they actually ended up moving to Colorado at the same exact time that we did, and we had no communication. He told me that he was moving there before I did, and I knew months before he had even visited there, and so it was really odd that that just kind of happened. That's one of those things where you're like, this shit's meant to happen. You know, there's no, I don't believe in coincidences really. I don't think that was so. That was really cool, moving there and having my best friend there already.
Yeah, that you knew already. Yeah,
exactly.
Instant connection there.
Exactly. And then my friend Lance Wright, who's a 185er, he's 4-0 at the time. And I think he's on the verge of getting that shot to make it to a big promotion. He's the man. Mm-hmm. And one of my best friends as well. And he ended up moving out to Denver as well, at a few months after I did. So it was really cool that it was 3 of my teammates that I had trained with for years.
Yeah.
Grew
kind
really
of
close.
Reconvening.
We just moved halfway across the states to a different place. So that was really cool. And I was really slow at get back to training, because the elevation was it took me a really long time to get used to the elevation. And so I started training, and I trained for a while, and I was kind of off and on because I was getting a new job, and just working that in with training was pretty hard, because their schedule's way different, because most of the fighters at the Elevation Fight Team is where I ended up training at the Easton Training Center, which is surprisingly kind of unknown unless you're a hardcore fan, but they have some of the best in the world. They're gonna be better known than Jackson Wink and all those gyms that the first gyms you think of, when you think of the best fighters in MMA, because they have so many people that are either already there on the verge of being there or going to be there when they're kind of thing. And so I was training there, and everybody was really cool there. I got to train with people like Neil Magny and Drew Dober and Justin Gaethje and Corey Sandhagen as well, and I met a lot of other people that you will know their name eventually kind of thing, because they are all really good. And it was really experiences that you can't put a price on or anything like that. Training with the best in the world is something that you have to do to know that you know what it takes. It's not like I did good really against any of them. I was getting my ass whooped, But you need that, and you need that confidence. It's
almost you need to see there's a level that too.
Exactly, a level that you're oh shit, I'm not ready just to jump into a UFC fight or some things that
realizing how deep the pool is. Oh shit.
Exactly.
This is deeper than I thought it was.
Exactly. Especially with a lot of amateurs, they think that they're ready to turn pro and just go straight up to the top. And then when you face a guy like a Corey Sandhagen, he's gonna humble you, and he's gonna be nice about it. Everybody that I sparred with, I never really sparred anybody that was mean or tried to hurt me, but they all beat me up just simply they were good, kind of thing. And they're all the nicest people. They're all the nicest coaches. A giant team, and like I said, everybody will know about them soon. It's shocking to me that nobody knows of them now. When I mention it, and they're oh, I don't know. Any of the coaches are really into me on the team.
Sandhagen just beating Lineker.
He's
definitely on the.
That's the thing. He's right there.
Yeah.
But it's hard this day and age to get noticed unless you're a shit talker, which Corey is a really quiet, awesome dude. So it's he's not going to be that guy to
get the shit talking ender.
Yeah, for real. Start being like Colby and having fake belts and shit.
Yeah, right. But, no, just talk about the mean streets.
Yeah.
The mean streets of Ottawa.
Yeah. Be I'm from Tacoma.
Hey, I don't see Scott McDonald on this podcast. Shout out to my sometimes co-host, Scott McDonald.
Shout out to Scott. Missing you, Scott. Thought you were going to be here.
Well, where you at?
Yeah. But, so I trained with them, and in this year in 2019. So I didn't fight for 2 years between the move.
What was that?
Yeah, that was weird.
It's like an earthquake.
Yeah, I heard it.
I know you heard the rumbling. Okay, never mind.
But so I took 2 years off of fighting, which was not something that I wanted to do, but I actually think it was probably the best thing for me to not break my body and like actually learn.
Especially after such a harsh
fighting
right out the gate.
Yeah, exactly.
But sometimes you need, especially I think if you're always like preparing to fight, you're not really preparing. You're not really like developing your game. You kind of always like, all right, I gotta sharpen what I do.
No, for sure. You're like, oh, this dude's a really good wrestler, so I'm gonna be a good striker.
Because you're always focusing on like
you're focusing on one thing or a specific thing. Like I said with Marshawn, I like focused on a triangle, like him triangling me. I'm like, as an amateur, you shouldn't even care. Like you should just be working on getting better. But it's easier said than done when you're actually about to fight someone.
Yeah.
So,
and also when you have your thing where fight.
When you're fighting constantly and it's like only months in between or something like that. So I did make a big leap, like technically everything just my whole game just shot up. I got a lot better from especially the time that I was at Easton and training with Elevation. I got way better within that time and got in tight with some of the coaches and they really helped me out and it was a good experience. And then I ended up fighting in May of this year.
Oh, no, don't mean to cut you short, but we got like 10 minutes of...
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
So, I can finish this up. This is like almost to present day.
Nice.
So I fought my last amateur fight at 155 in Iowa, and I made it a point to make every single thing different. Like, nothing was the same. I didn't have coaches in my corner. I had like two of my teammates, Justin Wetzel and Corey Galloway. Shout out to them. They are awesome. That was like the best experience ever, like traveling. And then Justin actually ended up fighting the night after. It was like a 2-night event for Caged Aggression. Okay. So he was a pro. He was already 3-1 at the time. So I won. And it was the best showing I had. I like dropped the dude. He was just a tough kid that I just like couldn't put away basically. Like I freaking hit him with a 2-piece that dropped him, and I dropped him with a body shot later in the 3rd round and stuff.
Tough.
Yeah, like it was just tough. I just couldn't finish him. And with amateur fights, they're pretty short. So unless you really hurt somebody, they're usually going to be able to survive the 3-minute kind of thing. And so that was really good. And then after that, I jumped straight into I was already planning on making my pro debut, but I wanted one more amateur fight to be sharp because you don't want to jump in a 2-year layoff and then fight probably the best guy you're ever going to fight because it's a pro fight and like elbows and stuff like that. Not like so. And then in May 25th, I made my pro debut. And it was a catch weight at 140. Okay. Because I thought that I could, I was seeing, because I was walking around really at 155. Yeah. But I had been dieting and like training really hard and stuff like that. So it was like one of those things where I was like super lean and I was like, dude, I can cut down and like rehydrate and I'll feel better, because like you're never going to feel good cutting weight and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's kind of a horrifying process.
Yeah, exactly. So, but then traveling back to Indiana for that fight for the Hoosier Fight Club and stuff like that, like, I made the weight, but I did not recover in time, and I felt so bad for my pro debut. I actually ended up losing it with a TKO in the 2nd round, and I lost it to a guy that is not better than me, and I showed in the fight that he wasn't better than me. I did well for how bad I felt, considering the second the bell rang, I was like, fuck, I'm so tired already, and like, he was a tough dude, from Chicago that like was like we said, he was down to fight. He was down to hurt you. Like, he was just one of those dudes, Yeah. And he was really smart going to the body because my body did take a significant, like I could feel the difference from the weight cut. I was in the back.
You're taking body shots differently.
Exactly. Like, he hit me with a knee in the 1st round that I, like, jumped to, and I was like, I've never jumped to a body shot. Like, I've never... I've been
body
hurt.
Just wasn't ready.
Exactly. Like, I've been hurt to the body, even in the back warming up, like hitting myself, like, kind of feeling myself out. Like, I was like, my stomach feels
you're like,
fucking weird.
Boy, this is bad.
But, at that point, it's too late, because you're about to walk out. So it's like, try your fucking best. It sucks that, to start out your career at 0-1, but I still don't have a regret of doing it. I think, like I said, coincidences don't happen, and I don't think that... I think I would have just waited to cut that weight and figure that out. I would have been on, like, a 5-fight win streak or something.
Yeah.
Something...
Wouldn't have done, like, out the gate.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, now I'm just 0-1. Now it's just, like, come back, and then it's like, oh, you only lost 1 when you have 8 fights or something like that, hopefully, or at that time. But
sometimes you gotta learn those lessons the hard way.
Exactly.
Like, oh, maybe not cut.
Yeah. And like I said, and that is definitely the lesson. I will never fight below 145 at all. And Yeah, it was just one of those things. Just because you can't make the weight doesn't mean you should. Exactly. And that was me figuring out the hard way, because it was like, there were signs of me like cutting weight, like my limbs were going numb and shit, and I was like moving my hands just laying there.
Like,
and
this is fine.
I'm like, dude, I don't remember this happening before. I'm like, I'll feel better tomorrow when I eat and drink and stuff. And if anybody saw that fight or sees pictures from that fight, I did look horrible. I was so skinny, and I looked like myself at 19 years old again, just with a couple more tattoos. Exactly. So learned lessons the hard way, and that was actually a pretty bad experience, just because the dude was not a good person. And I like fighting people that are also mixed martial artists, you know, that are in there to fight. They don't want to talk shit, and I think that's what's really wrong with today. And it's actually making me look different if, maybe my path won't be that I want to be in the UFC kind of thing, because I see a lot of different promotions, like specifically one, there's nothing but respect between everybody. This guy was talking shit to me during the fight. The first thing he did after he won was go up to my corner and scream at him, and it's like, dude, there was no beef between, like, we didn't have beef going up into the fight. It's not like
he was trying to make beef.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and some people need to do that, so I understand, but it's like, he was also just like not a very good person. I don't know him, but the things I heard about him, like, he's just not somebody that I would associate myself with. And I actually ended up not even shaking his hand after the fight, which is totally not me. Like, he came up and put out his hand, and I was just like, no, and just did not do it, and that's something that as I get older, I'm looking a lot more into, that I care about being a good person and being around good people rather than just being a fighter and being around fucking fighters, because
just being a meathead.
Like in any sport, especially in this one where it's like you're beating someone up, so it doesn't always attract the best people, like
what?
Yeah, like people are starting to figure it out. It's like, oh my god, John Jones is crazy. It's like, dude, he's
starting to figure it out.
Yeah, he's the best in the world.
Ask him regularly.
Yeah, exactly. Stuff like that. So I think that was the lesson that I needed, and that was the lesson that I took away the most. Well, the not cutting weight, of course.
I know, but it's like we said, some of those like harsh lessons, like
exactly. But that is also a good experience, because stuff doesn't get worse than that. Than like I've waited 6 years to make this debut, and then it fucking goes the wrong way,
So, and sometimes that's how it goes, but it's how you build yourself from there.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, all right. That's been. Whoa. Right. We covered like your whole entire career.
Hey, that was pretty good. I think.
Yeah. Nice. Any like last parting words?
No. Don't quote me on anything I say to here. My views on everything changes. Next week I might think different from today. So,
goddamn! What did I? As you're listening to this, like, oh shit. Yeah.
And thank you for having me on, and I really appreciate it.
No problem.
Pleasure to have you.
It's been good having you on. Yeah. Right. Even that bully ender.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. Bye.